I am getting ready to carve some pumpkins with the girls. We're not very good at it, but I'm betting I'm not alone on this, right? It's kind of hard. Well, make your gourds extra gourdious this year with some tips from master pumpkin carver Barry Brown, who is in the Silver Dollar City.
Okay, Barry. Well, a lot of people are fixing to head over to the pumpkin patch. Good times. Can you share some tips for picking a good carving pumpkin?
Well, my recommendation is to get a pumpkin that's about the size of a basketball that can fit in your lap, because that will mean that you can control what the pumpkin does. It's not going to roll around, and it'll be the safest way to carve. Also, the color is important. If it's a light colored pumpkin, it's going to be soft. If it's a very dark colored pumpkin, it's going to be hard. So if you find one in the middle, that's really great. However, if you have a scraper scoop, this is the tool to use, because you can thin down the pumpkin to the right size to carve, and that's going to be really, really helpful.
Oh my gosh, good tips right there. I had no idea on how to pick a good pumpkin. Okay, another big question for a lot of us is tools. What tools do you recommend that we all need to have in order to carve a pumpkin?
Well, there's three really main tools. The first one is the scraper scoop. It works so well, not only to clean out the pumpkin, but to thin the pumpkin. Let me show you. I just cleaned out the pumpkin and carved this size, and then I thinned it down and carved that size. So especially when I'm carving with kids, I want to thin it down to about 1/2 inch, and that's going to help them be a lot more successful. The other tools that are important are a saw, and a transfer tool.
Okay,
so when we're transferring, this makes the little poke tool, and then we saw with the saw, and because we're sawing in our lap, we saw straight up and down. And that's really important to saw straight up and down, because the saws are strong when they're straight up and down. They're bendy when they're sideways. They're just little thin pieces of metal, and they will break if you break them.
Okay, yeah, they can be a little bit tricky, right? Now, Barry, say somebody wants to be you and make some really detailed pumpkin carvings. What advice do you have for us? Because, I mean, you're the master.
Well, that's really kind of you, and I have been carving for a long time, but I think there's three secrets that are really important. Carve in your lap, saw straight up and down, and don't try too hard. Those are the three secrets of pumpkin carving. The addendum is to get a thin pumpkin. I mean, to scrape it thin. So if you scrape it down to 1 inch or 1/2 inch, that's going to be much more successful when you saw. And then it's just sawing. So however long you want to sit in your lap, these pumpkins in your lap, you can carve anything like this. This pumpkin took me 4 hours to carve. So it just depends how long you have to spend.
Hey, put on a good scary movie and get to carving. Well, some of those pumpkins you have behind you are insanely cool. How many do you carve during this season?
Well, at Silver Dollar City, they have around 1,300 pumpkins that are carved in the park. They're all these rigid foam, high density foam pumpkins, 1,300. I carved 700 of those pumpkins. Then in my booth here, I have a little booth, and you might hear some of the people walking by, and the train's gonna come by here in a minute, and some music playing. But when I'm in my booth and people order a custom carving, I do about 120 pumpkins during a 6-week period at the Pumpkins in the City Festival.
Yeah, it's really impressive work. I mean, I remember the ones you made for Colorado and Company. Oh my God, they were the coolest thing. Well, Barry, you are a man of many hats. Aside from carving pumpkins, you're also an author. Tell us all about your book.
Oh, thanks. My friend Jeff and I were both from Colorado, and we wrote this book called The Pumpkin Kid. It's sort of an old world folk tale style fable about a little orphan boy in an old mining town. And he goes around after the harvest and picks up all the misshapen pumpkins that nobody wants. And he borrows tools from his neighbors, like the blacksmith, the wood carver, the tailor, and he carves up these pumpkins in his little shack. And then he brings them back around to his neighbors, and he lights up the shacks. Oh, let's see, like this one. That's one of the pumpkins that the pumpkin kid carved for his neighbor, the tailor. He lights up the shacks, and it kind of lights up their hearts. And it's really a story about the light that shines in the darkness.
Oh, what a neat concept. Well, congratulations on the book. And of course, we look forward to chatting with you every time Halloween comes around. Thank you so much, Barry, for being with us today.
All right, guys, and you can connect with Barry by checking out his website. It's barrybrowncreative.com.